Good night, world. It's out of America. This is my fourth video I made today. Hope you guys enjoyed my show. I'm gonna make one more video now that I'm done, guys. Watch show with you guys now that I have to go to bed. I might watch a little bit of YouTube on my bed and I go to bed around like 12:30, 12 o'clock. I'll be in bed because I have work tomorrow at 8. I have to walk tomorrow to do. Alright, what are you eating? I'm eating chapati with fried fish and onions. Yeah, it's really good. Ivan, is chapati a tradition that you guys eat? Yeah, it is. A lot of Africans eat chapati. Indians are the ones who came up with the chapati. Indians eat it. Arabs and like Africans, they eat chapati. Obviously, I don't know if you Canadians know about chapati, but us Africans, we know about chapati. Obviously, right? Yeah, if you like eating in a bowl, yeah. Usually chapati is good with beans on the side, and a bowl of side beans, beef, also fried onions and like fish. It's good with chicken too. It's good with fried rice. It's amazing chapati, obviously, right? I'm gonna go back on the CFL. Uh, a lot of the American football fans are probably wondering, I don't get it. Like, how are the Canadian players more valuable than the American players if most of the American players who come up here are a bit more talented than your best Canadian players in most cases? There are some Canadian players who are drafted who are just as good as some of these American players, but some of them are even better in a rare case. But most of the American guys have a little bit of the edge in town over the best Canadian players. So shouldn't they be more valuable up here, Ivan? No. I'll give you my reasons. The first reason is that the American players, even though they're a bit more talented than our best Canadian players, they're not from here. They're American. They're from a different country. No one in Canada knows the fuck these guys even are. Don't hate them, saying. That's number one. Obviously. And the second reason, I don't mean to be an asshole, even though they are a bit more talented than our best Canadian players, they're rejects from another country, obviously. That's why they don't have much value here, obviously. Well, you guys, I'm saying that's just the truth. I don't mean to be an asshole, right? They're not the best players in America who are playing in the CFL. Well, you're NFL rejects, right? Yeah, there you go. That's why they don't have as much value. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. All the CFL fans know the American players who come up here, even though they're amazing, they're not the best players in America, right? They're the leftovers. All the best players in America are playing in your NFL. Yeah. Whereas the Canadian players may not be as talented as most of the American players who come up here, but they actually are the best players in Canada, in the country. They're the greatest players ever to play the game in Canada, right? And they're Canadian. They're known talent. A lot of the fans, when they got drafted, they saw them at university in Canada. They have higher value, market value. And they're Canadians, so they can relate to them more. It's a pride thing, right? The American guys, they can't relate to them as much because they're not American. They're not Canadian. They're American players playing in the league. That's the answer. I'm here, genius. I know. No, that makes sense, yo. Sarah? CFO will never get rid of the American talent. It's not going to happen. This has been going on for decades. Since the league started, they have that blindness. It's never going to go away, obviously. Yeah, we believe that's the best way to grow the league with the American talent. We've been trying your best, CFL, to promote these guys for years, and you're seeing them grow. So obviously something's not right, right? Yeah. I do believe the Canadian players is the key. Yes, it's the key. I figured it out, man. It's the key. Obviously, the fact that the CFL pays the Canadian players more money, and most of the CIS games sell out. The fans love these Canadian football players. They know the whole university knows these guys got drafted. The CFL should be getting more television because those fans should be tuning into the games. But I figured out. I know why most of those fans are not tuning into the games because they know most of these Canadian players who get drafted are not going to be stars. They watch the games as all these American guys who they know nothing about. It may be very talented CFL, but the fans don't know anything about these guys, man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ivan, what do you think is the CFL's peak? Probably 600 to 700 million is their peak, obviously. But I think the only way the CFL can get to 600 million or 650 even 700 million a year in revenue, they have to have the star players be the Canadian players. You're gonna bring up all these American guys, CFL, you're gonna see minimum growth for the next 40 years, man. You're not gonna see much growth, obviously. Because the American talent is not the answer, CFL. It's your Canadian talent. That's the answer to fixing your problems, obviously, your financial struggles, right? Well, not financial struggles. The CFL is a successful league, but compared to the NFL, it's a joke, obviously. The Canadian talent, CFL, is the answer to your financial growth, man. It's not the American talent. No one in Canada knows who these guys are when they come here, man. They may be talented, but they're they have a lot of talent, but nobody knows it. Nobody knows anything about these guys when they come here, man. Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. And they don't really care about those guys that much compared to the Canadian players. The Canadian players, they care a lot about more. I know, Ivan, we know that, but they're not as talented. No, they're talented. You're just blinded by the NFL's talent, CFL. Obviously. You know, man, the Americans are so amazing at football. That's why we bring all those guys up here, Ivan. Because they put on the show. I know CFL, they're amazing players. They really are. You guys, all you CFL athletes, you're amazing players. Even though you're rejects, you guys really are amazing players. But you're unknown to us Canadian people. We don't know anything about you guys. You guys are from a different country. So we don't know anything about you guys. Yeah, so it's tough to resonate with those guys. And yeah. I'm going to keep telling you, CFL, if you want the majority of your star talent to be the American players, you have no choice but to market them to the Canadian people. I'm going to keep saying that. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, you have to market them. All right, does the CFL market Canadian players? Yeah, they do, but barely. Maybe 4 Canadian players in the league they market. The rest are all these American guys. So even though you have a few Canadian star players who they market in the league, obviously, the spotlight's kind of taken away from them because it's just a bunch of American star players. And don't forget, a lot of these star Canadian players, they have shorter windows. They might be stars for maybe 2, 3, 4 years, and after that, you don't hear anything from them. Because if they perform bad, they get benched and they replace them with an American player. Whereas the American players have higher windows, longer windows. If they perform bad for a couple seasons, they'll still be stars somewhere in another team or something like that. Canadian players, that doesn't happen, man. It's very rare for that to happen. Because the CFL downgrades the Canadian talent. That's cold, man. No, cold. Yeah. But Nathan Rook is the hope. Nathan Rook won the semifinal game against Nathan Rook won Mike Take his teams the Grey Cup, man. That's why I'm rooting for Nathan Rook and taking his teams the Grey Cup, man. Nathan Rook is the hope, obviously, for the Canadian players in CFL. But I mean, Nathan Rook also has short windows too. The next season, if he performs bad, he could get benched. because he's Canadian, man. The coaches have the fear. Yeah, if the Canadian players don't perform well, you got to get rid of them and replace them with an American guy. That's how it works. That's what happened with Trey Ford. Trey Ford, who I think is an amazing quarterback. I think Trey Ford just needs time to grow as a quarterback. He could be an amazing quarterback in the CFL. I think this year he was very nervous. He looked very nervous in the pocket, obviously, when I saw the highlights. He was nervous because he had a lot of stress on his hands. He signed a mega contract. I think they're paying him like $600,000 a year. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you know the Canadians are more viable than American players. Yeah, we know Ivan, but we're not as talented. Yeah. And what? Yeah, Trey Ford's on like a $500,000 deal, I think, around there. In his first season for Edmonton. Because he got benched, they're going to restructure his contract, obviously. But maybe he might get an opportunity somewhere else in the CFL to be a star quarterback, obviously. Is Nathan Rourke a good QB? He is, but he just needs time to grow. Just like Mike Riley he had a losing season with Edmonton his first season. And he took his team to a Grey Cup a couple years later. They won the Grey Cup in 2015, I believe. Edmonton Eskimos won the Grey Cup. Obviously, some Sarah. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the CFL would do if it was just the Canadian star players? In 10 years, the league can grow to a $450 million business, and in 15 years, maybe 470, and in maybe 20 years, they hit that 550 million range. And maybe 15 years, it can grow to a $500 million a year revenue business, obviously. It will grow, obviously. If you market the Canadian star players well, especially the franchise quarterbacks, it will grow, obviously. I know I'm doing. And with a $500 salary cap, you can now have a $10 million salary cap. Obviously. Because the CFL's greedy, they might maybe raise it to 9 because the CFL's greedy. They want to pocket those millions, obviously, in profit. It might raise it to maybe 9 million, but at a $9 million cap, you can pay the star quarterback $600,000 to $1,100,000 a season. And the star receivers can get their 500,000, 450,000, 550,000. And the star defensive players can make their 280, 350, 300, $400,000. And the good players make like 150,000, 140,000. That's how much star players make in the CFL. They make like they're 140,000, 150,000 a year, 180,000 a year. The star players in the CFL make, and some of them make 200, 250, 300,000. It just depends, right, on the player. But the QBs make the most, obviously, right? Yeah. And the Canadian companies CFL will be more willing to endorse the Canadian players because they're homegrown, known talent. The American players are talented, but they're not known talent. They're not homegrown talent. They're talent from another country who are not the best players from another country. They're rejects from another country. Don't you understand? Yeah, that's why it's tough to endorse those guys. Don't you understand? Yeah. Yeah. Why do the CFL fans know the American guys are rejects? Of course they do. They're not stupid. They know all the best talents in the NFL. So all these even though these guys are amazing players, they know they're all rejects. They're rejects from another country, obviously. And you market those players to the Canadian people, CFL, and no one really cares. I gave you my reasons, and that's why your league's not growing. So if I don't be an asshole, it's just the truth, right? Oh, I'm saying, yeah. You rather market the American players who come from the States who are not the best players in America, they're rejects from the NFL. You rather have those guys be the stars of your league instead of the greatest players who ever played the game in Canada, who are actually known to the Canadian people and who the fans love more. And who they know they got drafted, they saw in college. You rather have these American guys who who are undrafted in the NFL or not going to have an opportunity to be the stars that are over your own best Canadian draft picks. Yeah, the answer's right in front of your eyes, CFL. You're just too blind to see it. Yeah, the fact that you're paying Nathan Rourke and all the star Canadian players more than all these American guys, I think that answers your question, CFL. They're more valuable to the league than these American guys. These American guys are a dime a dozen. You can grab as much as you can from the States because there's so many athletes, right? Oh, he said, yeah. I think the star Canadian players make more. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do, guys. All you American football fans, if you're a star Canadian player in the CFL, you get paid more money than even the star American players because they're more valuable to the league because they're the greatest players in Canada. They're a rare talent in Canada, obviously. And they have higher market value up here. Whereas the American guys may be more talented on average than most of our Canadian guys, but they don't have much value up here because in terms of market value because they're not known talent to the Canadian people. And the CFL knows they're a dime a dozen. They can just grab, you release this guy, you can just bring up more guys from the States. They're a dime a dozen, right? There's so many players to choose from in the States, to grab from the States, and those guys are not the best players in America. Don't hate them. Yeah, that's why they're not as valuable in the league. But, all right, that makes sense, yeah. Yeah. I know all the star like university Canadian players. Do they all get drafted in CFL? No. There's some players in who play college who are amazing in college, but they're not necessarily good enough for pro football. In a rare case, but most of the players in university in Canada who are star players for their university team, they end up in the CFL. They get drafted, but not all of them make it because some of them are just not the right fit for pro football. They're just not good enough for pro football. A few of them, obviously, a few of them here and there, and some of them are undrafted, unsigned free agents. Obviously, like the NFL too. You don't get drafted. They have guys who are undrafted, unsigned free agents. Well, in Canada, you have a similar situation. The players who don't get drafted, the CFL does sign some undrafted free agents. My younger brother wasn't drafted, but he was an unsigned, undrafted free agent as a whole lineman, obviously. But he didn't make the team. He made the practice roster. Because my oldest brother was drafted in the 4th round when he played special teams. And he told me stories of how there's a bias in the CFL. Yeah, man, all the draft picks on the bench, and the coaches love all these American guys. He even told me some of the Canadian guys had beef with the American guys. Yeah. Yeah, beef. Upset. Yeah, man. Obviously. Why don't the Canadian players speak up? If they speak up, they're gonna get fired, man. They can't say shit, man. If you want to keep your job, you gotta keep your lips sealed, man. All right, that's all bad. Oh yeah, they have to keep your lips sealed. That's how it works, right? You can't say shit. Otherwise, they can lose their job. All the Canadian players know about the bias. They're not stupid. As Nathan Rourke, when he won most outside Canadian a couple of years ago before he won the NFL, in his speech, he's like, I like to thank the CFL for giving us Canadian players an opportunity to us Canadian quarterbacks an opportunity to play. He said that, Nathan Rourke. Obviously. That's how bad that's cold, man, I know. The Canadian players can't say shit, otherwise they can lose their jobs, right? Nathan Rourke can't speak up. He can lose his job, man. No, none of these players can speak up, man. They can lose their jobs, right? Even the coaches, the sport anchors, if they speak about this, the bias that's been going on for decades in the CFL, they can lose their job, man. Obviously. Because the CFL has that bias towards the American talent. Yeah, Ivan, we need to bring these guys up and have put on a show for our CFL games, Ivan. Yeah, you guys are blinded by the American talent. Ivan, that's cold, man, I know. That's cold, man. I know. Is it really that bad? Yeah, BJ, it is, man. They have a bias up in your pro league in Canada. Yeah, they do. My oldest brother told me stories about that stuff, about that, right? Yeah, the Canadian players don't really know about the bias, but then they're excited when they get drafted. They get the call from the GM. Yeah, this guy's a first round pick and all that stuff. But then once they step at the training camp and the season starts, they know they know about the bias. They know about it, obviously. I guarantee you some of them, man, this is bullshit. That's why a lot of them retire. because they have limited opportunities to be star players in CFL. It's all these American guys. With the fans that can't know nothing about CFL. Come on. Some Sarah? Oh, 100%, yeah. Come on, CFL. You're telling me if the CFL and TSN panel talked about Nathan Rourke and Trey Ford, Brad Sinopoli, Brandon Bridge, even those guys retired, obviously, you know what I'm saying, and Kyle Quinlan, like these guys played in CIS University and NCAA University. Brandon Bridge and Nathan Rourke played in the NCAA Division 1. You're telling me that will not have more buzz? Like, can his QB take his team to the Grey Cup? You're telling me that will have less buzz than Bolivar Mitchell and Zach Caleros guys? And Bernard Adam Jr.? What do you think will have more buzz, Ivan? Oh, the Canadian players, Ivan, but like they're not as talented, Ivan. No, they're talented enough. You're just blinded by the American talent. As Brad Sinopoli was an amazing quarterback, I think he would have been a star player in the CFL, Brad Sinopoli, if he was a quarterback. He won the MVP for the CIS, obviously. And I saw it in the preseason game with him when he was up against Bolivar Mitchell. Yeah, Bolivar Mitchell was a little bit better, but I didn't see that much of a difference in quality. There's not that much of a difference, but the American players are more athletic, Ivan. They have a bit more of the edge in town. Yeah, they do. But, like, they're unknowns to the Canadian people, CFL. No one knows anything about these guys, man. I didn't care about Bolivar Mitchell when he played in the preseason game. I don't even know what the fuck this guy even is. But Brad Sinopoli, I knew who he was. I knew he got drafted, and I knew he played at RBU. And he won the Head Creighton Award, right? I can relate to him more, and I was rooting for him. Yeah, I hope this guy starts. I didn't care about Bolivar Mitchell. When I see the highlights with Nathan Rourke, I don't care about the American quarterbacks. I care about Nathan Rourke. I hope this guy takes his team very up. I hope, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I watch all the BC Lions highlights every week, obviously. Sarah? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you put the border guards to shame. It's a shame. Yes, I did. Yeah, you might be right there. Maybe that is the key. Guys, it's the key. I know, man. That's the key to fixing the growing a league. You need to get rid of the American talent. You need to have the best Canadian players compete for the Grey Cup. And you market them, quarterbacks, and to the universities. When you market these quarterbacks to their own universities, the university fans, students will know these. They know these players. They played at that university, man. And the whole university, guys, knows these players got drafted. When players get drafted in the CFL, they post the information on the main page of each university of the players who got drafted at university. The whole school knows. All like 40, 50,000 students know, man. And during the CIS games, they most of them sell out. They have a capacity of maybe 7,000, 8,000 people, but the whole thing is sold out, man. The fans go to support their Canadian players. So you're telling me if a lot of these university students know these guys are now franchise quarterbacks, they're not going to go to the games or tune into the television games. They're going to tune in, guys. But I guarantee quite a bit of them do tune in. I want to see this player, how will this player do in the CFL? And they know, barely any of these guys who got drafted are stars. It's all these American guys who I know nothing about. They may be talented, but I don't know anything about these guys. And they don't tune in. Yeah, fuck this. I'm not going to watch the games. This is bullshit. Like, none of these guys are even stars. And you wonder why CFL league's not growing. Don't you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So. What was that, guys? Talk for like 40 minutes. That's good enough, right? Yeah. If the CFL did make that change, Ivan, would the American players be pissed off? Yeah, they would. Like, this is bullshit, man. We should be the stars up here. No, guys. I don't mean to be an asshole. Even though you guys are more talented than us, you American guys, this is not your country. This is not your league. The Canadian players deserve to be the stars up here, not you guys. You guys have your NFL, man. The CFL's for the Canadian players. It's not for you guys, Williamson. Yeah. Sarah? Yeah. CFL's been doing this for decades now. This is not recent. I don't even be rude. I'm like, yeah, I'm sick and tired of this bullshit going on in my fucking country, the Canadian Football League in my country, the CFL needs to be exposed because this is a betrayal to your own country, CFL. You know what I'm saying? You drop the best players in Canada, you limit their opportunities to shine, you close the doors on them, and you give all these American guys their time to shine up here who are not even from here, man, and who never want to be here. You know what I'm saying? And when you lose some of your star talent to the NFL, when the fans love them, you're pissed off. When you know this was not their dream CFL, their dream's not playing here, man. Their dream's playing in the NFL, obviously. So it's tough for the people of Canada to take your league seriously because all your star players are players who never want to be here. They're only here by default. And they're unknowns to the Canadian people. And a lot of those star players that you promote, you lose them to another league. And you wonder why your league's not growing and why the fans can't really resonate with these guys, man. I don't really resonate with these guys because I know they never want to be here to begin with. They're only here by default. This was not their dream. When I watch all documentaries, I always get the same answer. They say, yeah, like, my dream, they all say, yeah, we know that. Yeah, in the documentary, when they try to promote these players, their star players, obviously, they have this moving documentary with music and everything. You know, so they really try their best to move. It's a beautiful story, amazing story. This guy did not get his NFL opportunity, and now he's a star player in the CFL. It's a beautiful story. But they all say in the documentary, yeah, my dream, I played at Penn State University. I was a star player at Penn State University. I went on draft to the NFL. You know what I'm saying? I went to trade. I was an unsigned free agent. I got cut at the NFL camp, and I got an opportunity to play football here. Yeah, the fact that they say at CFL, they're letting you know that this was not their dream. So it's tough to resonate with those guys. You guys, Sarah? They're only here by default. They're not here because they want to be here. No. All the CFL players are not here because they want to be here. No, they're only here because they didn't get their opportunity. And you want to have those guys be the stars in your league CFL over your own Canadian draft picks who actually dream of playing here. Obviously. Why do Canadian players care about the NFL? No, they don't care about the NFL. But there are some Canadian players, if they get an opportunity, they'll take it for the heck of it. But they don't really care about the NFL. Their dream's playing here. Okay, an NFL team's interested in me. I might as well take the opportunity. But most of them end up coming back here because they don't care about the NFL. And the NFL has a bias towards Canadian players. Most Canadian players who get signed, most first-round draft picks in the CFL who get signed in the NFL, they end up on special teams or they're on the practice roster. They end up back in the CFL because the Americans have the edge over the Canadian players in talent. And the NFL, I don't mean to be rude, they have a bias towards Canadian players, obviously. Yeah, we don't like you Canadian guys. Yeah, so why should you give all these American guys opportunity to shine? That's not fair. Why don't the Canadians care about the NFL? Because the NFL is an American football league for the Americans. Like, the CFL is the Canadian football league for the Canadians. Their dream is playing here. But if they have an opportunity, some of them might take it, but they don't really care, obviously. Yeah, even if I get cut, I don't care. My real dream is playing here. But if I have an opportunity to play in the NFL, I might as well take that shot. But I don't really care. Their dream is playing here. They don't really care about the NFL. They don't care about the NFL, the Canadian players. Obviously. Because a lot of first-round CFL draft picks, the NFL is interested in a lot of those guys. They get NFL tryouts or they're unsigned, undrafted free agent. Like quite a few first-round CFL draft picks who were signed in the NFL, but they don't get to be stars in the NFL. It's tough to start in the NFL, right? They don't really care about the NFL. That's my point. Sarah? Yeah. All right, do you think Nathan Rourke will go back to the NFL? No. I saw an interview. He said, yeah, he's like, the CFL is my home. He took his NFL shot. Nathan Rourke will not go back in the NFL. He's making a lot of money in the CFL. He can be a star player here. That's his dream. His dream is playing here. It's not playing in the NFL, obviously. The Canadians' dream is playing here. This is their country. This is their home. Yeah, it'd be nice to be a star player in the NFL, but they don't care about the NFL. The NFL is a league for the American players, not for the Canadian players. The CFL's for the Canadian players. The NFL's for the American players, not for the American players. The CFL. Sarah. Yeah. Yeah. Let me talk to you. Let me talk to all you GMs and coaches. You know, I know. I know you guys think I'm crazy. If the CFL was the best players in Canada competing for the Grey Cup, and your television ratings doubled to a million, five people watching, and your Grey Cup boosted by maybe 20 million people watching, and your league made 500 million revenue, yeah, the quality dipped by maybe 4%, but now your league is in a healthier position. The value of your brand went up because you're promoting homegrown talent. Now all you American, Canadian GMs and coaches, head coaches can get paid more money, and you can pay the star players more money, and they can get bigger endorsement deals. Obviously, it was worth it. You got some Sarah? There we go. Yeah. Ivan, it's cold, man. No, cold. Ivan, what do you think is the CFL's peak in revenue? Probably 650 million around there. That's probably its peak because there just isn't that big of a demand. But the CFL can never reach $1 billion. No, the peak of the CFL is maybe 600 $650 million in revenue because football is just not that popular in Canada compared to hockey. But if the CFL can grow to a 500, 550, $600 million business, they can pay the players more money. They can raise the cap to like a 10, $11 million. You raise the cap to $11 million at a $600 million year revenue. The star quarterbacks make even 2 million, 1.7 million, and the receivers make like $600,000, $700,000. Starter defensive players make $500,000, $400,000. It's not NFL money, but with that money, you're living a rich, amazing life, obviously, and they can get bigger endorsement deals from the Canadian companies, obviously, who are willing to endorse the players. Do CFL players get a lot of endorsement deals? No, they don't. Not many players get endorsement deals because the league is just not that big. And if they do get endorsement deals, it's not a big endorsement deal. It's maybe a $5, $10, $50,000, $20,000 endorsement deal. It's not a huge deal. And I believe the reason why the CFL star players don't get that much endorsement deals, only a few of them do, is because the league is not showing results in growth. Don't hang him saying. And it's very tough to endorse these American star players in Canada because people can't know who the fuck these guys are, man. Like, yeah. Like, they speak at schools and everything. Yeah, we know this guy's name is a CFL star, but we don't know anything about these guys. They're from America, from a different country. Obviously. And this was not really their dream, right? Their dream was not playing with CFL. Their dream was playing NFL, not here. So I know him. So, yeah. I'm sorry, huh? Would you really pitch this to the committee? Yeah, I would. If I did not have the keys and I was a commissioner, I'm like, yeah, if you want this thing to be huge in like 15 years, you have to get rid of the American talent, guys. That's the problem in your league. Oh, Ivan, that's not the problem. Yes, it is. That's the problem. You have to get rid of these guys. Wise men, like this has been going on for decades. Yes, that's why you have to get rid of them. That way I get rid of your blindness. Because you're blinded by talent from another country because the NFL is so popular. I get that, but there's context, guys. Even though the NFL is very popular and the quality is amazing, those players playing in that league are known talent. They're players who got drafted in the league. obviously, and a lot of these football fans saw these guys in college. Obviously, yeah, but we draft the best Canadian players. Yes, you do, but barely any of them are stars. It's all these American guys you bring up here who are unknowns to the Canadian people. That's what I'm saying. Okay, I'm saying, yeah, obviously, yeah. Ivan, the American players is what's growing the league. Okay, well, you've been doing this for decades and your league's seeing minimal growth. What's your strategy of having this league jump from 300 million to 500 million in like maybe 15 years? With the American talent, we don't know, Ivan. Yeah, you don't have an answer because you know what I'm saying is true. It's the Canadian talent. That's the answer, man. That's how you grow the league. There you go. Especially the quarterbacks. It's all about the quarterbacks. You have to really market the quarterbacks. If you market the best Canadian quarterbacks from the NCAA and say as you get drafted in your league, and you market them in universities, and the fans know they're star franchise players, and that's how you grow the league. You can boost your league revenue to a $500 million revenue in 15 years, man. 450 in 10 years, 500 million in 13, 14, 15 years. In 20 years, you can hit almost $600 million. That's probably your peak. CFL's peak, obviously. Sarah. Yeah. And with the Canadian star players, the GMs don't have to worry about losing these guys in the NFL. Especially once you raise the cap to $9 million CFL, you don't have to worry about your Canadian players playing the NFL. All these Canadian players are going to turn on opportunity because they're making more than enough money. They know their chances of starting the NFL is not high, and they don't really care about the NFL. They're all going to stay here. You don't have to worry about that nonsense, man, of losing all your star players in the NFL, especially the quarterbacks. The Canadian quarterbacks will not go to the NFL if they're making $700,000, $800,000, $1 million, $1.2 million. That's more money than what they would make sitting on the bench in the NFL. That's what I'm saying? Yeah. The Canadian players don't care about the NFL guys. But the American players care about the NFL. That's their dream. That's their real dream. It's not playing here, guys. Their dream is playing in the NFL. It's not playing in the CFL. Yeah. So, Ivan, what's your business market strategy? Have the CFL and TSM panel talk about it, obviously. And if the CFL were to have the best players in Canada, do a press conference and have TSM air it. That way everyone in Canada knows about the change. And you need to market the Canadian quarterbacks, do commercials, nationwide commercials, and have them speak at the universities they attend or something like that. That way you market it, obviously. And put a billboard in front of each of your CFL stadiums of like the franchise quarterback and like maybe the franchise running back or something like that. And that's how everyone, CFL's on Canada, and everyone knows about the change. That's how you grow it. I hear cheese, I know. Sarah? And you have to put the Canadian players through better coaching, conditioning, off-season training, and on-field training from the coaches. Have the coaches really coach the quarterbacks, the running backs, the linebackers very well. That way you get everyone's on the field. It'll not be as good as the American guys, even if it makes that much of a difference. But it'll still be, it's entertaining quality football. It's not like the NFL. Yeah, that's your problem, CFL. You're jealous of the NFL's American talent. That's why you're it's a blindness you have. Ivan, it's so good. That's why we got to bring in the leftovers guy, Ivan. Yeah, but guys, you've been promoting the heck out of all these American guys for years, and you're seeing minimal results. So obviously something is not right. You're not peaking any higher than 300 million CFL. So obviously you're not. Yeah, we can't peak any higher than that. Yeah, if you want to peak higher than that, you got to make some changes. You have to. There has to be a key to fixing this CFL. I don't even be rude, man. I'm sick and tired of seeing all these American guys be the stars up here, man. Who I know nothing about. Who I don't really care that much about. Since I don't hate him, All right, the fans care about the American players. Of course they do. They care about them. They care about the Canadian players more. That's my point, right? They love the Canadian players more. Yeah. Guys, Russ Jackson was the only Canadian quarterback. He's the only Canadian QB legend in the CFL. And all the football fans in Canada love him. They have a trophy named after him, guys. Like, you know what I mean? They have a trophy named after Russ Jackson at the CIS University Football Awards. They have something called the Russ Jackson Award. They respect him so much. So you're telling me if you have all these Canadian quarterbacks who are now legends, this quarterback broke Matt Dunnigan's record, this quarterback broke Anthony Harville's record, those guys are going to be famous and they're going to be, your league will be huge, man, in like 15, 20 years, guys. And I'll be doing. So, Sarah. Yeah. All right, is Russ Jackson more respected than Matt Dunn and Anthony Harville? Yes, he is. The football fans in Canada love Russ Jackson more than Anthony Calvillo and even Matt Dunnigan. And those guys put up more points, more career stats. And Russ Jackson only has, I think, about like 28,000 yards passing in his career. He only played for like 12 years. He has about 30,000 yards passing in his career, and he has like 1 or 2 Grey Cups. Yet the fans love him more than even Matt Dunnigan and Anthony Calvillo. Those guys are CFL legends. Why? Because he's Canadian. There you go. And the fans in Canada know the Canadian players who get drafted in the league. Russ Jackson was drafted like in 1958. Russ Jackson played when the league like just started, right? Russ Jackson was drafted in like 1958 in like the first round or something like that in the CFL. Obviously, right? The Canadian fans in Canada know the players playing in the CFL, the Canadian players, are the greatest players who ever play the game up here. Was the American guys, even though they're very talented, come up here, and I respect what they did up here, they're not the greatest players in America. They're rejects from another country. That's what I'm saying. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Is the CFO worried about the game attendance? No. The CFO will tell me. The CFO committee will tell me, no, Ivan. With the Canadian players, I think we would sell all our games. Yeah, with the Canadian players, if you have the best Canadian quarterbacks play for the Grey Cup, you have all these star Canadian linebackers and running backs you got drafted, I think, yeah, the CFO will sell out all their stadiums. The CFO does well in attendance. It's their television ratings that they struggle with, obviously. As most CFL games are packed. Some of them are not as packed, but most games are packed. Almost a sold-out crowd. But it's the television ratings they struggle with, obviously. They'll tell me, yeah, even with the Canadian talent, we'll probably sell out all our games for game attendance, season ticket holders, but it's the television ratings we're worried about, Ivan. Yeah. Yeah, because you think because the quality will dip by maybe 4%, less people will tune in. But CFL is not about the quality of your game. Because the CFL is almost as good as the NFL. Not the NFL, almost as good as the NFL, and yet the fans that kind of still don't care, obviously. So I have 2 answers. Either there just isn't a big demand for football in Canada, or there is a bigger demand for it in Canada, but it's not with your American star players, CFL. It's with your Canadian draft picks who you drafted, the best players in Canada. That's the answer. Because the fact that the university football games in Canada, most of them sell out every game. Yeah, I mean, they sell out every game. Obviously, that's how you know there is a bigger demand for Canadian football in Canada. It's not with your American star talents, with your Canadian star talents. That's my answer. I'm your cheese, I know. Sorry? That's my answer, obviously. That's my answer. And my gummies. Eat my gummies. What'd you get? I got Jolly Ranchers. It was so good. Yeah. Guys, if Russ Jackson, who's a Canadian quarterback, who's a legend in the CFL, can have a trophy in his ass, and that means the fans love him so much. You're telling me if you market all these Canadian fans as a quarterback, the fans are not going to love these guys too. They're going to love these guys more than all these American guys you bring up. Yeah, the American guys are going to be more talented, but they're not. They don't have much market value. They don't have much. Yeah. Yeah. I'm eating a bunch of. I'm eating like 4 gummies at a time. Almost done. Yeah, so good. Yeah, it would be nice for them. It'd be nice for them to be some Canadian quarterback legend in CFL. Yeah, but because of a stupid American bias the CFL has, you're not going to see any Canadian quarterback legends in the CFL. Because all these American guys who the CFL brings up, obviously. Now, in Canada, and you wonder why leagues aren't growing. The only one who could be a legend is Nathan Rourke, but like Nathan Rourke has to have an amazing performance every season because if he performs bad, because of the bias nonsense, they're going to bench him obviously. Because Canadian players have shorter windows than CFL. That's why there's not many Canadian legends because even though like you have star players, most of them play for maybe 1, 2, 3 years, and if they do bad, they get benched and they replace them with an American guy. That's why they have limited opportunities. That's why there's barely any Canadian football legends in the CFL, except for the O-linemen, obviously. A lot of Canadian O-linemen get to be CFL legends, but what? O-lineman is a non-skill position. The skill position is all these American guys who the CFL brings up who get to be legends up here in the CFL, right? Yeah. Yeah, you figure it out, yeah. Yeah, the CFL drafts the best Canadian players in Canada. All the universities in Canada know these players got drafted. Millions of people in Canada know these players got drafted because the CFL draft is nationwide. It's on TSN, right? So it's nationwide. Obviously, most of the CFL legends are all these American guys. There's barely any Canadian guys in the CFL who are legends. I figured out, yeah, it's the American talent problem. That's why the league's not growing. Yeah. I'm talking to you, American football fans. Most of the legends in the CFL are all these American guys. There's barely any Canadian legends because barely of them get to be stars. Obviously. Right? That's just the truth, right? Yeah. What's the real key with the Canadian talent? It's the quarterbacks. It's all about the quarterbacks. That's the real key. The other players have a part to play, but it's all about the quarterbacks. You need to really market the quarterbacks, the Canadian quarterbacks. That's the key to fixing the CFL's growth struggles, right? You know. they had a bunch of Canadian quarterbacks in CFL, man, I'd be watching all the fucking games, man. Yeah, I'm gonna watch this, but I want to see which one of these Canadian quarterbacks who got drafted from the CIS is gonna take it to the Grey Cup. It's a pride thing, and you're rooting for your homegrown Canadian talent. With the American guys, I don't really care that much about those guys. That much. I care about them a little, but I don't really care about those guys that much because I know that this was never really their dream. Don't hate them, saying, and they're American. I don't know anything about these guys, obviously, and they're not the best players in America. They're you know what I'm saying? Don't hate them, saying, yeah. Like, what about the coaches? You think the coaches will be all Canadian? No, no, no. The coaches doesn't matter. I think it's good to balance American coaches with Canadian coaches, GMs. That doesn't matter. Ex players who played in the CFL who are now coaching, they can coach obviously. But I believe the product should be mainly the Canadian players. That's the key. But the coaches and GMs and presidents doesn't matter. They can be American, Canadian. That doesn't matter, obviously, right? Yeah. I do some CFL ex players coach in the CIS. Yeah, they do. There's quite a bit of CIS. Anthony Carvillo coached for the University of Montreal. He coached in the CFL for a bit, and after that he went to coach University of Montreal. He was an assistant head coach at University of Montreal. Obviously in the CIS, and he came back to the CFL after that. I don't know if he's still coaching. I don't think he's coaching now, but that's what happened with him, obviously, right? Yeah. But quite a bit of CFL players end up coaching in the South and the NCAA, or some of them they coach in the CIS in Canada. Obviously, they end up coaching in the CIS in Canada. Obviously, some of them coach in Canada, University in Canada. Some of them coach NCAA in the States. Obviously, right? We get coaching jobs, right? Yeah. Yeah. For transcriber, Ivan, man, if what you're saying could be true, which I think it is, if the league could make like 500 million in 10 years, that'd be good for the league, yes. And all you GMs and coaches can get paid more. You can get bigger paychecks, obviously, get paid more money, and you can pay the star Canadian players more money, and the presidents will make more money. You can raise the cap to 9 million. You guys don't have to worry about the Canadian players going to the NFL. They don't care about the NFL guys. Like if they're making that money in the CFL with a higher salary cap, that's good enough money for them. They're making an amazing rich living. They're not gonna go to the NFL guys. They don't care about the NFL. You're paying a quarterback $800,000, $900,000, $1 million. They're not gonna go to the NFL. That's more than what they make in the NFL sitting on the bench. Obviously. In other words, the Canadian players are easier to market to grow the league because they're known talent to the Canadian people. The American players are not as easy to market because they may be talented, but they don't have much value up here because they're people from they're players from a different country. They're not from here. They're American. Like these Canadian people didn't see these guys play college. NCAA. Yeah, some Canadians do watch NCAA in Canada, but I mean, not really. NCAA is not that popular in Canada. They saw, you know what I'm saying, all the CIS players, a lot of them did see them in college, or they know they got drafted, Obviously, either they know them from the fact that they got drafted, or they saw some of them saw them in college. That's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, I'm saying yeah. But the CFL's never gonna make that change, obviously. Anyways, this is where you guys know the CFL shows. I'm saying, peace. Oh yeah, I'm saying peace out.